What happens when a successful businesswoman sits down for what should be a simple interview, only to face hostile questions and thinly veiled insults from a host who seems threatened by her success? In just 32 seconds, a respectful conversation turns into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history, as Dr. Sara Al Madani finds herself under attack on live TV, forced to defend not just her business, but her very character, while the panel watches a meltdown unfold right before their eyes. The Loose Women set is buzzing with energy. The studio lights are bright and hot. The audience settles into their seats, excited for another afternoon of conversation and debate. Dr. Sara Al Madani, a respected entrepreneur and television personality from the United Arab Emirates, walks onto the stage with confidence. She's wearing a tailored blazer, and her smile is genuine as she waves to the audience. She's been invited to discuss her business ventures and her work empowering women in the Middle East. The applause is warm and welcoming as she takes her seat across from the panel, which includes Denise Welch, Ruth Langsford, Janet Street Porter, and Colleen Nolan. Ruth leans over to welcome her before they start. "We're so glad to have you here, Sara. It's going to be a great conversation." Sara nods appreciatively. "I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for the invitation." The floor manager counts them down. 5, 4, 3, 2, and they're live. The cameras start rolling, and Denise begins with what seems like a standard introduction, though there's something in her tone that feels slightly off. "So, Dr. Sara Al Madani, you're here to talk about your businesses and your success in Dubai. Tell us, what brings you to our show today?" Sara smiles warmly, not picking up on the subtle edge in Denise's voice yet. "Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share my journey and hopefully inspire other women who want to pursue their dreams in business. I think it's so important that we support each other and lift each other up." Denise leans back in her chair, her expression already shifting into something harder. "Your dreams. Right. So you've built quite the empire over there in Dubai. Must be nice having all those opportunities just handed to you on a silver platter." Sara's smile falters slightly, confusion crossing her face. "Actually, nothing was handed to me. I started my first business when I was 15 years old. I worked incredibly hard to build everything from the ground up. My family didn't support my business dreams at first. I had to prove myself every single day." "From the ground up," Denise repeats, her tone dripping with skepticism. She crosses her arms and tilts her head. "In Dubai, where I'm sure it's exactly the same as struggling to build a business here in the UK, where everything is easy and opportunities just fall from the sky." Ruth Langsford shifts uncomfortably in her seat, glancing between Denise and Sara. "Denise, I think what Sara is trying to say is that she's worked hard regardless of where she's from. Hard work is hard work, isn't it?" Denise waves her hand dismissively, barely looking at Ruth. "I'm just asking questions, Ruth. That's what we do here, isn't it? We ask questions. We don't just sit here and nod along to everything our guests say." Sara maintains her composure, though you can see her jaw tighten slightly. "It's absolutely fine. I understand there might be misconceptions. Yes, I built my businesses in Dubai, but that doesn't mean the challenges weren't real. I faced bankruptcy at 21 years old. I faced failure multiple times. I had to rebuild from scratch, learn from my mistakes, fight against people who said I was too young, too inexperienced." "Bankruptcy," Denise says, almost laughing, a cruel smile playing at her lips. "How terrible that must have been for you. And then what? You just started another business? Just like that? Just snapped your fingers and poof, another opportunity?" "Well, no, not just like that," Sara responds, her voice steady, but you can hear the tension building underneath. "It took years of hard work, learning from my mistakes, and refusing to give up. I had to work 3 jobs at one point just to pay off my debts. I barely slept for 2 years straight." Janet Street Porter jumps in, clearly trying to steer the conversation back to something productive. "I think what's impressive is that you didn't let failure stop you. That takes real courage. A lot of people would have given up after bankruptcy, especially at such a young age. Denise shoots Janet a look that could freeze fire. Courage. That's one word for it. I might call it privilege, being able to fail and just try again without real consequences. Most people don't get second chances, let alone third and fourth ones. The studio audience goes quiet, and you can feel the atmosphere shift. Sara takes a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check. I'm sorry, but I don't understand where this is coming from. I came here to talk about empowering women and sharing my story in hopes it might help someone else, not to be attacked for my background or my success. Attacked? Denise laughs sharply, the sound harsh in the quiet studio. Oh, sweetheart, if you think this is an attack, you clearly haven't faced real criticism. This is just conversation. Maybe you're used to people just praising everything you do over there. Maybe you're used to yes men and people who are afraid to challenge you. Colleen Nolan looks visibly uncomfortable, fidgeting with her notes. I don't think that's fair, Denise. Sara is our guest. She came here in good faith. We should be treating her with respect. And as our guest, she should be able to handle a few honest questions, Denise snaps back, her voice rising a notch. Or is that too much to ask? Are we supposed to just throw softball questions and giggle and clap? Sara's voice becomes firmer, more controlled. I can handle questions. I welcome questions. What I won't accept is being spoken to with such disrespect and condescension. I've been nothing but gracious since I walked onto this stage. I answered your questions honestly and openly. Disrespect, Denise scoffs, leaning forward aggressively. You want to talk about disrespect? Let's talk about coming onto a British talk show and acting like your struggles are the same as what British women face every single day. Let's talk about the audacity of comparing your pampered life to real hardship. Ruth intervenes again, her voice firm now. Denise, that's not what she said at all. She's simply sharing her own experience, her own journey. That's what we invited her here to do. Her own experience of what, Ruth? Having money and resources and connections and then calling it struggle? Give me a break. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's the same as a woman in Manchester trying to start a business with 50 pounds to her name. Sara's hands are gripping the armrest of her chair now, her knuckles white. You don't know anything about my life. You don't know what I've been through. You're making assumptions based on where I'm from and what you think you know about Dubai. I've faced discrimination. I've been told I couldn't succeed because I'm a woman. I've had people try to sabotage my businesses. I've had to fight for every single opportunity I got. In Dubai, Denise says, her voice rising to match Sara's intensity. Where you live in luxury. Where you have access to opportunities that most women could only dream of. Where you probably have staff and drivers and people doing everything for you. And you sit here and act like you're some kind of victim, like you've suffered. The other panelists are exchanging worried glances. The producer off stage is making frantic gestures, but Denise isn't looking. Janet tries to redirect, her voice cutting through the tension. I think we're getting off track here. This isn't what we planned. Sara, why don't you tell us about the work you're doing to help other women entrepreneurs? The mentorship programs you've created. But Denise isn't finished. She's on a roll now, her face flushed. No, I want to hear this. I want to hear how hard it is to run businesses when you're surrounded by wealth and privilege. When you don't have to worry about paying rent or feeding your kids or choosing between heating and eating. Please enlighten us. Sara's voice is shaking now, but not with fear, with controlled anger that's been building throughout this entire exchange. You know what? You're right about one thing. I do live in Dubai. I have built successful businesses. I'm proud of what I've accomplished, but that doesn't erase the fact that I've worked my entire life to get here. It doesn't erase the nights I stayed up crying because I thought I'd lose everything. It doesn't erase the times I was told I wasn't good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough. It doesn't erase the sacrifices I made or the relationships I lost because I was so focused on succeeding. Oh, please, Denise interrupts, her hand cutting through the air. Spare me the sob story. We've all had hard times. We've all cried. We've all struggled. The difference is some of us don't parade it around like we're special. Some of us just get on with it. Ruth's face is flushed with anger now. Denise, this is completely out of line. Sara is our guest, and you're treating her terribly. This isn't journalism, and it isn't entertainment. It's just cruel. I'm treating her like an adult, Denise fires back, her voice sharp and defensive. Maybe that's the problem here. Maybe she's used to everyone tiptoeing around her and telling her how wonderful and amazing she is all the time. Sara stands up, her composure finally cracking. I don't need to sit here and take this. I was invited to this show to share my story and inspire people. Instead, I'm being insulted and mocked by someone who clearly has issues. My own issues? Denise stands up too, her face red. You come here with your designer clothes and your perfect life and your businesses, and I'm the one with issues? You don't know what real struggle looks like. And you do? Sara shoots back. You sit here on your talk show making money by tearing other women down? That's struggle? That's work? The audience gasps. Colleen puts her hand over her mouth. Janet is frozen. Denise's voice reaches a new level of volume. How dare you? How dare you come onto this show, onto my show, and speak to me like that? Who do you think you are? Your show? Sara's voice is equally loud now. This isn't your show, Denise. This is a panel. And right now, you're using it to bully a guest. Because what? You feel threatened? Ruth stands up, trying to calm things down. Ladies, please, let's just take a breath and try to reset this conversation. No, Denise cuts her off. I don't need to take a breath. What I need is for this entitled woman to understand that not everyone is impressed by her businesses and her image. Sara's eyes are blazing. Entitled? Spoiled? You don't know me. You have spent this entire interview making assumptions and attacking me based on absolutely nothing at all. I have been nothing but respectful and kind, and you have been hostile from the moment I sat down. Maybe because I can see right through you, Denise says, so I'm pointing her finger directly at Sara. You're not here to inspire anyone. You're here to promote yourself and your brand and act like you're doing us all a favor by gracing us with your presence. Janet finally speaks up, her voice firm. Denise, stop. This has gone way too far. You need to apologize. Apologize? Denise whips around to look at Janet. For what? For asking real questions? For not fawning all over her like everyone else? For being cruel, Janet says quietly. For being unnecessarily cruel to a guest who has done nothing wrong. Colleen nods. She's right, Denise. This isn't journalism. This isn't even fair questioning. This is just mean. Denise looks around at her fellow panelists, her face a mixture of anger and something else. Hurt, maybe. Or embarrassment. So now you're all turning on me? Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Sara picks up her microphone from the table and carefully removes it from her lapel. I'm not going to stay here and be disrespected. I came here in good faith to share my story, and I've been met with nothing but hostility and jealousy. Jealousy, Denise practically shouts. You think I'm jealous of you? I think you're threatened, Sara says calmly, her composure returning now that she's made the decision to leave. I think you see a successful woman who doesn't fit into your narrow view of what struggle should look like, and it makes you uncomfortable. The only thing that makes me uncomfortable is your arrogance, Denise retorts. Sara shakes her head slowly. No. What makes you uncomfortable is that I refuse to be small. I refuse to apologize for my success. I refuse to let you make me feel bad for working hard and achieving my goals. And that bothers you because deep down, maybe you wish you had done the same. The studio is completely silent. Even the crew members have stopped moving. Ruth's voice is gentle. Sara, please don't leave. This isn't how we want this to end. Sara looks at Ruth with sad eyes. I appreciate that, Ruth. I really do. But I can't sit here and pretend this is okay. I can't normalize being treated this way. Oh, for God's sake, Denise mutters. So dramatic. Dramatic? Sara turns back to face Denise one last time. You have spent the last several minutes attacking me, insulting me, questioning my character, and dismissing my experiences. And I'm dramatic for refusing to accept it? That's rich. Colleen reaches out as if to touch Sara's arm. We're so sorry. This isn't what we wanted. We really did want to hear your story. I know, Sara says softly, and I appreciate you trying to make this right. But some things can't be fixed with an apology. Some things are just too far gone. Janet stands up. For what it's worth, I think you're incredibly brave, and I think your story is important. Sara gives her a small smile. Thank you. That means a lot. Denise crosses her arms. Are we done with the Mutual Admiration Society? Because I have a show to run. Actually, Ruth says, her voice suddenly cold, I think we need to take a break. Right now. One of the producers is frantically signaling from off stage. The camera operators don't know where to point their cameras. The audience is whispering among themselves. Sara gathers her belongings, her head held high despite the situation. I want to say something before I go, she announces to the audience. To anyone watching who has ever been made to feel small, who has ever been told their success doesn't count because of where they come from or what opportunities they had, I see you. Your story matters. Your struggles are real, and you don't ever have to accept being treated poorly by people who are intimidated by your light. The audience begins to clap, slowly at first, then building into full applause. Denise's face goes even redder. Oh, wonderful. A standing ovation for the victim. She's not the victim, Denise, Ruth says sharply. You made her one. Sara takes one last look at the panel. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, Denise. I truly do. Because whatever anger you're carrying, it's eating you alive. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me, Denise snaps. I'm not, Sara replies. I'm just making an observation. A successful, entitled, spoiled observation. There's a moment where no one knows what to say. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Finally, Sara turns and walks toward the exit. Her heels click on the floor with each step. The cameras follow her as she moves past the crew, past the producers, toward the door that leads backstage. Janet calls out, Sara, wait! But Sara doesn't stop. She reaches the door and pauses for just a second, her hand on the handle. Then, she pushes it open and walks through, letting it close behind her with a soft thud. Back on the panel, Denise is standing alone. Ruth has sat back down, her face in her hands. Colleen is staring at the floor. Janet is shaking her head in disbelief. Well, Denise says, her voice brittle, I suppose we'll go to commercial. Ruth looks up at her. We need to talk about what just happened. What just happened, Denise says defensively, is that a guest couldn't handle a few tough questions. A few tough questions? Janet's voice is incredulous. Denise, you attacked her. From the very beginning, you were hostile and dismissive and downright cruel. I was doing my job, Denise insists. Your job isn't to make guests feel unwelcome, Colleen says quietly. Your job is to have interesting conversations. That wasn't a conversation. That was an ambush. Denise looks around at her colleagues, and for the first time, there's a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Well, and I was just being honest. There's a difference between being honest and being hurtful, Ruth says. And what you did crossed that line about a dozen times. So what? You're all against me now? Denise's voice wavers slightly. We're not against you, Janet says. But we're not going to sit here and pretend what just happened was okay. Because it wasn't. The producer's voice comes through their earpieces, telling them they need to wrap up and figure out how to proceed. Denise sinks back into her chair, and for a moment, she looks smaller somehow, less sure of herself. I didn't mean for it to go that far. But it did, Ruth says simply. And now we have to deal with the consequences. She shouldn't have been so sensitive, Denise tries one more time. Colleen shakes her head. She wasn't sensitive, Denise. She was defending herself against someone who was attacking her for no good reason. I had reasons, Denise mutters. What reasons? Janet demands. What did she do that justified any of that? She came here to talk about her businesses and her work with women. She was polite. She was gracious. She answered your questions. And you treated her like she was your enemy. Denise doesn't respond. She's staring at the spot where Sara was sitting just moments ago. Ruth stands up again. I think we need to cut the segment. We can't just move on from this like nothing happened. The producers are saying we need to address it, Colleen adds, looking at her notes. Address what? Denise asks, her voice small now. That I asked hard questions? That you bullied a guest off the show, Janet says bluntly. That's what we need to address. The weight of those words hangs in the air. Backstage, Sara is removing her makeup, her hands steady despite everything that just happened. A production assistant approaches her nervously. Dr. Al Madani, we're so sorry about what happened out there. Is there anything we can do? Sara looks at her reflection in the mirror. You can make sure that the next woman who sits in that chair is treated with the respect she deserves. Of course, the assistant says quickly. Absolutely. Sara picks up her bag and takes one last look around the dressing room. Then she walks out, through the backstage corridors, past the security desk, and out into the London afternoon. Back in the studio, the panel is struggling to figure out what to say when they come back from commercial. Denise is uncharacteristically quiet, her earlier bravado completely gone. I think, Ruth says slowly, we need to acknowledge that our interview with Dr. Sara Al Madani did not go as planned, and we need to take responsibility for that. We? Denise looks up sharply. Yes, we, Ruth says firmly, because we're a panel. We're a team, and when one of us handles something poorly, it reflects on all of us. Janet nods in agreement. But Denise, you need to understand that what happened out here was not okay. It wasn't fair to Sara. It wasn't fair to the audience. And honestly, it wasn't fair to the rest of us. Denise's eyes are glistening now. Whether from anger or tears, it's hard to tell. I thought she was putting on an act. I thought she was being fake. And even if she was, Colleen says gently, which she clearly wasn't, that's still not an excuse to treat someone like that. The producer gives them the signal now. 30 seconds until they're back on air. Ruth takes a deep breath. When we come back, we're going to be honest about what happened. We're going to own it. Denise nods slowly, looking defeated in a way none of them have ever seen before. The cameras come back on. The red lights blink, and 4 women sit at a table, trying to figure out how to explain what the viewers just witnessed.